The season's first episode, Switch, brings us back to Gene and his mundane, black and white existence as a Cinnabon employee. After Gene gets locked in the mall trash room at the end of his shift, he's confronted with his only route of escape, an emergency exit that will alert the police if used. He instead sits on crate and waits for someone to let him out, and in the meantime, tags the wall behind him with a stray screw. SGY's here. Perhaps Saul isn't completely gone after all. Back in Albuquerque, we pick up right where we left off at the end of Season 1. Jimmy, riding the high of the Sandpiper case, is offered a job at the Cushy Davis and Main law firm, but begins to panic when it seems like things may not work out as well as he'd planned. He confronts Kim, Rhea Seahorn, about their future together and proceeds to turn down the job, quit the law, and spend his days floating in a pool, snacking on nachos. Meanwhile, Mike, Jonathan Banks, is ditched by his bumbling wannabe drug dealer, Daniel, when Mike insists that they do not go to the deal in Daniel's hideously tricked-out Hummer. Daniel goes to meet Nacho, Michael Mando, alone, in shoes to match his Hummer, and assumes they have now established a certain level of trust. But when his house is robbed and the police become suspicious, it becomes clear that Daniel has gotten himself in too deep, and should have followed Mike's advice about restraint. Back at the hotel, Kim, frustrated with Jimmy's change of heart and apathetic attitude, attempts to persuade him to return to practicing law. While they drink house wine and well tequila, Jimmy overhears a man talking loudly on his Bluetooth earpiece about stocks and investing. He entreats Kim to play along, and they eventually con this man out of a bottle of very, very expensive tequila and wind up spending the night together. Jimmy returns to his comfortable spot in the pool the next day, and after leaving Kim a series of voicemails, decides to accept the job with Davis and Main. He's finally got the whole package: a spacious corner office, a fancy company car, and a vigilant assistant, willing to grant him his ever-coveted Cocobolo desk. The rule breaker hasn't gone anywhere, however, when Jimmy is faced with a switch loudly labeled "Always leave ON. Do not turn OFF." He can't help but peel back the label and flip the switch. Nothing happens, nothing that we can see anyway, so Jimmy prepares to finally settle into the job he thinks he's always wanted. We've seen this guy before in Breaking Bad Season 1, Episode 4, Cancer Man. He speeds onto the scene when he takes Walt's parking spot in his BMW convertible, decked out with a license plate that reads "Ken Wins," and loudly brags into his Bluetooth. After Walt encounters him a second time, Ken evidently loses when Walt puts a squeegee in the hood of his BMW, and it explodes. Jimmy, Kim, and Ken all get drunk off Zafiro Anejo, a very expensive tequila that goes for $50 a shot. The bartender evidently gifts Kim with the fancy cork of the bottle. That's because we've encountered this lavish tequila before, in Breaking Bad Season 4, Episode 10, Salud. Gustavo Fring uses the prize drink to poison Don Eladio and the rest of the cartel, and they drop dead on the pool deck. Daniel calls the police after his house is broken into and reports his baseball cards stolen. 2 police officers arrive, but they quickly realize there is more to this break-in than just a baseball card robbery. While there were a few more small tie-ins hidden here and there throughout the episode, like the reoccurring graffiti on both shows picked up on by Reddit user Underthice703, Gilligan's callbacks were pretty in-your-face for Switch, and that made watching it even more enjoyable than anticipated. Season 2 is off to a hell of a start.